we're going to take a break. We are halfway through on the podcast, and we are going to take a look at who we are presented by. We here at the Finish Line Podcast are presented in part by Tylenol. For what matters most, you may think all pain relievers are the same, but your doctor sure doesn't. For the people with high blood pressure or on aspirin heart therapy, Tylenol is the brand of pain reliever recommended most often by doctors, more than all other brands combined. Isn't that incredible? We're also today presented in part by Mutual of America, your retirement company. Play for today and plan for tomorrow. What is your game plan? To get help with yours, visit mutualofamerica.com or call 1-866-954-4321. Mutual of America is your retirement company. Okay, everyone, welcome back. This is the Finish Line Podcast. My name is Spencer Walsh.
You don't want zero problems, big fella.
That's right. Let's get it started.
Yup. If one more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dreadhead niggas in your lobby. You don't want no problem with me. You don't want no problem with me.
Oh, yeah, that's a great introductory song. Where to go? Yes. Alright, so we got that started. We are now ready to get started. And now it's time for the quote of the day and our fact of the day. And these are some pretty good things we got lined up for you. And alright, so let's put on the music again. Another song than that one, because that one's not the best for this kind of stuff. Alright, so let's do this one. Alright, this is good. It's time. The quote of the day on the Finish Line Podcast. Alright, so this is the quote. Who would have ever thought 5 years ago, when I was at ESPN every weekend drunk, that I'd be accepting this award? That's Rob Gronkowski after accepting the Patriots tight end after receiving the team annual Ron Burton Community Service Award. That's the award he got. Alright, so that music did not make any sense to put there. I don't know what was going on. Sign of the Apocalypse. We got this, of course, from very good places. A couple from India was banned from climbing in Nepal for 10 years after they were caught using altered photos to fake a successful ascent of Mount Everest. Wow. Like, those are just crazy, man. Like, I mean, ooh. Alright. Like, you get those, and, like, you see those when they pop up, and they're like, those stories. Ooh, man. Alright, so we transition now to some more top stories, and yesterday there was some interesting things going on in Pennsylvania. Penn State, in fact. Yes, Penn State. I don't know if you knew this, but yesterday the very great and very trash, you know what I'm talking about. You know who was honored yesterday in Penn State if you are following the news at all whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. The great and incredible and just shockingly incredible person, Joe Paterno. And I struggle to say this. Joe Paterno was honored yesterday, believe it or not, by Penn State. And he got a standing ovation. We'll give you some of the more details on this and my opinion on this whole fiasco now. and then we'll get you a great guest on to talk about this whole situation. And that guest is going to be joining us in a few minutes after we get to discussing this and give you some of the facts on this and how it all went down. And it's really pretty bad. So now Penn State has honored Joe Paterno in a video tribute during a Temple game. And so let's see. So the fans actually gave him a standing ovation, and the reason why this is so, I'm just fascinated, like why they would do this, all the facts that happened, and I do want to get your take, because I think we all realize this was wrong. Like, you honor a man who stood by, well, I think it was, let's just say for argument's sake, we don't know for sure, it's like nothing's really been proved, like nothing's really been officialized, there's always more allegations coming out, which is just so, like, which describes why this man it's ridiculous that this man is even getting honored conceivably at all in the first place. But he sat by and let's just call it 15 kids for argument's sake. I mean, I shouldn't have to be like calling 15 kids. Like, he sat by, didn't care about anything. Let's be honest, don't get me wrong here. The real criminal, the real person, the real sick mind in this whole situation is Jerry Sandusky. He's the one who needs to go to jail, but almost as bad, if not worse. I mean, for just having the pit in the lowest of the low in morals, Joe Paterno, to sit there and watch this happen. Sit there. I mean, people have admitted this. That multiple people have come forward and said, I told him about it, but he said, okay, I'll report it, but he never did. He never did. He was like, I'm going to report it. In probably an effort to turn the people who told him it off the center of the trail and say, oh, Joe Pa's got it. Joe Pa, the living saint, he's got it. I mean, and he just goes in and does nothing. And they're honoring him. There is no apology in order. Every single solitary Joe Paterno, I could debate them for hours on the facts of the case. He did it. He did it. And Penn State, I know it's bad. I know it's horrible. Penn State needs to come and get over it and face the facts of what happened. Joe Paterno is at fault here. He is hugely at fault. Not as much at fault as the person who actually did this whole horrible crime, Jerry Sandusky, but he is incredibly at fault. Like, there is no way, there is no possible, conceivable way that in State College, Pennsylvania, out in the middle of nowhere, everyone knows everything, and everyone cares so much about football. Gossip travels around like this, light, that he didn't know about that. It is not possible. It's not humanly possible. I just can't comprehend it. And I mean, I don't even know. Like, the times are so crazy. Penn State's honoring Joe Paterno, and I have to say these words. There was a great article yesterday about this on Deadspin. Like, normally great article and Deadspin, like, those are two words that don't go together. But this one is a pretty good article here, just destroying what horribility this is. Penn State honored Joe Paterno, the former football coach who knowingly harbored child rapist Jerry Sandusky on his coaching staff for 33 years. Multiple times throughout the first half of today's football game between the Nittany Lions and Temple, a bevy of tributes and monuments constructed by the Penn State fans preceded and followed the festivities. I mean, how would you like it if I went up to a random guy and said, oh, you know, your son plays on a football team, right? Your son loves the football team, right? You know, and the coach, he's like really good, really legendary, and his assistant coach everyone likes, and he's taking your child places. Oh, he was raping him. I mean, you don't think you'd want to do something about this? I mean, really? I know it's so horrible. I just hate to talk about it. I just want the story to be put down forever. And I mean, I feel like it's just something I have to talk about because it's just something that needs to just be stopped. But I mean, it's obvious. Like, they don't care about what's really going on here. Like, they don't want to stop it. I mean, Paterno faithful's tone deafness should not be more surprising. So, selective memory crops up more often with sports figures, even those connected to decades of young children being sexually abused. The legacy of Paterno coached teams on field and academic success is a history folks in Happy Valley have struggled to digest as being less than important than his continued employment of rapist Jerry Sandusky, a fact made clear in the student-focused piece in the New York Times, while alumni continue to berate student journalists who continue to oppose the tributes. University officials in charge of today's events declined to comment on their decision to honor the disgraced coach. This after they attempted to slide the Paterno Day globally past fans and media altogether by sticking it between Stripe Out Day and a dance marathon on their promotion page. Like, you really don't think the national media would notice that? Come on. Penn State first honored Paterno through a video meant to highlight his focus on creating a successful program, which you can view, and this is the link to the video there. The university also aired a video honoring Paterno's 1966 team with 24 members of the team standing at midfield, while the video showed highlights from the season. Mike Irwin and John Runnels, the co-captains of that year's Penn State team, participated in the game's coin toss. The fan-made tributes displayed a wide range of idiocy, ranging from the expected collections of flowers and bricks at the spot of Paterno's since removed statue. Like, it's like he was shot there or something. I mean, even going as far as to use a Martin Luther King Jr. quote, though they aren't the first ones to use King's name foolishly this week. That's a whole other story. Let's see. I do want to check out this quote-unquote student-focused piece on the New York Times. So this is actually pretty interesting. So before Lauren Davis finished writing her editorial about Joe Paterno for the Daily Collegian, Penn State student-run newspaper, she braced herself for the response. The piece she wrote, an editorial reflecting the opinion of the dozens of editors at the paper, needing a reality check after it announced plans to commemorate Paterno at the Penn State Temple football game Saturday, when it will host. Let's see, where was I on this interesting New York Times piece here? Well, it will host a celebration of its first game as coach of the Nittany Lions 50 years earlier. Davis, the opinions editor, wrote that it's not the right time or the right way to honor Paterno when the current students associate him with Jerry Sandusky, the longtime assistant coach who is found to be a serial child molester. This is our Penn State. This is a Penn State without Joe Paterno. Those of us here are beyond and ready to move on. Like, they don't want any part of this. It's just he's stuck in the past. Old farts who are just like, oh, we gotta honor Joe Paterno, honor the wins. It's so stupid. She was called a clueless, treacherous traitor and told to resign with the paper and transfer to another university. She was accused of hating her university and hating football, knowing nothing about Penn State history, she was even called an idiot by a teaching assistant at a Catholic school, no less. In other words, that, are not so great. One man wrote, I hope God can forgive you for your actions. I sure the hell can't. The feature threw Davis off, especially because one of the many attacks, including personal ones, came from graduates in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Those were the Paterno days. It wasn't an educated debate. It was parents and grandparents with pitchforks decrying Davis in the newspaper's thoughtful opinion. All to protect a man who may have enabled Sandusky, has enabled Sandusky's crimes by not acting to stop them. Testimony in one lawsuit claimed that Paterno was told as far back as 1976 It's 1976. That pretender was abusing a child.